Now, this bean machine of yours, is it a mean bean machine? Or...
No, it's a regular bean machine because the mean one turned out to be too mean for a lot of people. This is like a relaxing bean machine.
With Bubsy.
Okay.
Welcome back to Cartridge Base Radio. I'm Donald, once again joined by Brad.
Hello!
And for a third time, Mark returns.
Hello, Internet.
People may remember Mark from Sonic and Nightmare Creatures.
2 different episodes. There was Sonic and Nightmare Creatures sounds awesome.
I would play the hell out of a Nightmare Creature Sonic game.
Oh, well, see, I just won the contest before we even started.
Oh, man. Well, I guess second prize is first loser, so I'll accept it. No, we are here to not talk about a specific game. We're here to talk about Brad and I's ideas for video games. Mark, you are a professional game designer.
I am.
So you're going to judge our pitches in an idea we're calling Mark Tank because it sounds like Shark Tank and that's great.
What do you boys have for me today? I want ideas. Big ideas.
I'll start off. Yeah, so, before I jump right into the pitch, I think probably everybody who's played a game fancies themselves as kind of an armchair game designer. And, they play something and it's not as good as they expected. Like, oh, I could have come up with a better game than this. So today we're going to put that theory to the test. It's me against Donald to see who can impress Mark the most. And I guess I'm going first. So are you ready to hear my most audaciously mediocre pitch?
Go for it.
All right. So the idea I had is that if you look at the market today, pro wrestling games are basically based kind of similar to fighting games where, you're using your favorite, whatever superstar and you go in and you fight, another wrestler and you try to win. But real actual pro wrestling is, letting the cat out of the bag here, but it's not a real fight. It's choreographed. The outcomes are predetermined.
The hell you say?
Yes, I know. If this was 1987, this would be like a shocking revelation. But wrestling is a show. It's not an actual combat sport like MMA or something. And the idea I had for a game was that rather than a pro wrestling game that's like a fighting game, it's a pro wrestling game where you're trying to put on an entertaining show. So when your opponent hits you, you have to react to it, and you have to react appropriately. If he hits you with a little slap and you go flying around the ring and jump over the top rope and fall on the ground, it's going to look silly. But on the other hand, if the guy hits you with his most powerful move and you stagger a step back and you're like, I'm fine, you're going to make your opponent look weak.
So just to clarify, this is a wrestling game where what matters is your artistic credibility.
Yes, that is exactly it. The idea, is just put on a good show, entertain the fans. When you're on offense, mix up your moves, hit the crowd pleasers, but, don't just do the same move 7 times in a row like you would in a typical pro wrestling game that's out right now, where you're just like, oh, this is my most powerful move, I'm just going to spam it. And the idea is, entertain the crowd, make you and your opponent look good.
So I'm an investor here, right?
Sure.
How do you get some loot boxes in there?
How do we make everyone hate that they're playing this game? No, valid question. As far as additional revenue streams go, you could have DLC for maybe some boosts, because the way that you would progress to the game is, you start out with very low rankings and everything. You have good matches, you earn money, and you use that to buy skill points and attributes. And learn how to do different moves, learn how to take different moves. But people who have money and no patience can just maybe buy the skill points, directly and use that to unlock move sets that otherwise would have to be earned in the game.
How would this work with social media?
Man, the questions I did not prepare myself for. I was so pleased with my my game idea. I never even thought, like, how am I going to get people to buy it? There would be sharing options. You could take your best version of you. The game would be open-ended. It would be sort of like... If you've ever played, like...
Are there licensed characters?
Licensing might be expensive, because there's really, like...
So you're not going to have, like, the ghost of Hulk Hogan in there?
Wait, do we have to kill Hulk Hogan first to get the ghost in there?
Well, there's going to be a wraparound story where Hulk Hogan dies and his ghost wants you to become a pro wrestler.
But it says brother a lot.
Kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi. If Obi-Wan Kenobi had a sex tape.
How do we know he doesn't?
Two reasons to avoid licensing. The first is that just WWE owns pretty much everything wrestling now, so you'd probably have to go through them, and I think they're probably exclusive with 2K games. The second reason is that through your career mode, you'll have different options. You might start in, bingo halls at local shows and get an option to maybe go right into, like, the big federations, the real big leagues, or you might have to travel to Japan or Mexico or something. You might have to choose between being a big star in a little organization or like a mid-carder in the big leagues and try to work your way up. So in order to have a lot of different options, it would probably work better if you weren't tied to one specific license.
This is shockingly well thought out.
I mean, I've spent, since my childhood coming up with this game.
You're like, this is my dream.
In addition to the in-ring stuff where you're trying to, make everything look good and put on entertaining matches, as far as the career mode's concerned, it would almost be like Sid Meier's Pirates, where there isn't one set goal. So, you could decide, I'm going to make a wrestler and he's just going to be the guy who has a long career making other guys look good, or I'm going to be the guy who takes a lot of chances and has a short career that I'm a candle that burns too bright, so I'm only going to last 5 years, but I'll be a huge star for that amount of time. So you can kind of think about where you want to go, and then as opportunities.
So how would you define the audience liking your act? Like, what is the actual mechanic and kind of data there?
Okay, that's a real good question. I think probably you're going to have a lot of timing-based gameplay where you're watching the guys do the moves, and you have to, if you're taking a move, you have to hit the button at the right time to make it look less fake, try to make it look more real. If you screw up your timing too much, you might get yourself hurt.
So it's all rhythm-based.
Yeah.
There's not like you're going to Japan, so you kind of do some pro-Japanese thing at the beginning, or people think you're maybe too pandering or whatnot?
There would be out-of-the-ring aspects to it, too. So, yeah, you would have to come up with a character, and the way that you speak, the way that you dress, and the way you behave in the ring need to be consistent. So, if you come out and you just badmouth the crowd and, everybody, you try to be a typical bad guy, and then you get in the ring and you never cheat, and you just do, real gentle-looking moves, that's not going to get over because it's inconsistent.
Interesting. What is the balance between the actual rhythm game in the matches versus sort of the life simulation angle there, where you're kind of choosing what you do in your spare time and how you market yourself?
Probably it's going to be maybe 60-40, where 60% of the gameplay is coming where you're doing matches, and 40% is kind of the building your character, and the backstage stuff all sets up to improve you when you do a match. So it's kind of like in a sports game where you're drafting your players and you're building up your team, and all that is just prep for when you actually get on the field.
Interesting. My knee-jerk reaction would be to kind of flip that.
Okay.
Because it's clever that you are going to, expose that this is fake and you're playing up to it. That said, what people really usually want when they're playing a wrestling game is genuinely the visceral impact and whatnot.
Okay.
So I think if you have that as your key ticket, that you're going to be spending a lot of time doing this.
Yeah.
I think it'll feel like a weaker wrestling game than if you lean into the whole create your character, live your life, who do you want to be seen dating, all that angle, and you keep the kind of like rhythm-based flair fighting as kind of a mini-game modifier. But that's just where I'd go with it.
No, that makes sense. I suppose the other thing is the more time that you spend building up your guy, the more invested you're going to get into him. The more it's like, that's me, as a pro wrestler in a video game. So yeah, I can see where, you're probably right that the focus probably time-wise should be more on the backstage and the character building.
I was being slightly facetious before about the social media and the sharing angles, but honestly, like, if you really become invested in your character and you spend a lot of time pumping them up, I could see online matches with other people and just having like global ranking of these matches and these characters.
Yeah.
It's like my wrestler's the #1 wrestler in Southern California.
Yeah. I that would be an interesting aspect to it. And then the other part of it would just be that there'd be like a lot of like backstage stuff where it's like you have friends in the organization, you might have some enemies, and if you make somebody look bad, there might be consequences for that down the line. If you have a match where you just make the guy look really weak, and then it turns out he's in good with the boss, you might find yourself in some pretty bad matches later on. And the other thing is, like, you'll have to decide between doing what's best for you and what's best for the company. If they're asking you to lose every night, eventually you might have to be like, I got to win some matches, boss, or...
So do you see these being scripted scenarios, or do you see it being more systematic?
Maybe a little more systematic. I'm thinking like influence would be kind of like a point value system that might not be visible to the player, but you have better matches, you gain a little more influence, and then you can ask for, or you can turn down some things, or like make suggestions, and have a little more determination of your own.
Interesting.
Can I ask a question, Brad?
Yeah.
Would there be a DLC for Randy the Ram Robinson?
It would probably have to be unofficial, but yeah, there'd be a DLC where you could get the pieces to make, a pretty similar club.
Nice. I wish I'd gone first, because that was really good.
I know, right?
I mean, holy cow.
So here's Donald's idea, which is just Oregon Trail, but with zombies.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I will rate that only half a Bubsy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. No. It's good to be lower on the Bubsy scale.
Right.
Yeah, if you go full Bubsy, you've screwed up.
No one wants to go full Bubsy.
You never go full Bubsy. Wow, Brad. Like halfway through that, I was like, I really need to play this game.
Shut up and take my money.
It's like way better than Living the Dream, a Spike Lee joint.
So Donald, let's hear your idea.
That is a hard act to follow, but geez, I need beer. So, I like space operas, Star Wars, Guardians of the Galaxy. Everything.
The actual space opera from Fifth Element that they watched.
Who doesn't like that? Monsters don't like that. So, anyway, my idea is sort of based off Mass Effect 1, but not 2, because screw that game. There's a giant robot baby at the end, Brad. It's stupid.
You fight like something from the cover of a heavy metal album.
Yeah, they're just like, we give up. So,
wait, is your game idea just that you're gonna bash Mass Effect 2 for 20 minutes?
No. So, I think the most important thing in these space simulation games where you're flying around the galaxy is kind of owning your ship. So, in my game, you can genetically alter anyone on your ship to look however you want through my robust character creator scheme. That way, your people on your ship are literally your people on the ship. And that actually has a kind of a tie-in to my surprise third act reveal in this game. But anyway, a group called The Rush, because it has to be super generic, has invaded Earth. And
okay. Do they force people to play San Francisco Rush?
I mean, that may be their ultimate goal.
I assume they all look like Rush Limbaugh.
Okay, this isn't a horror game. But so the Rush have invaded our galaxy, and Earth gets together and like, we have to send some people out to stop this. So they assemble a crew, which you obviously are the leader since you're playing the game. And if you were just like a helmsman,
Also, apparently fathering the most of the crew.
yes. So you head off, and your first mission is you have to get to this Rush Gate and get to the aliens universe. So you guys have to board this Rush Gate, which is literally just a mass gate from Mass Effect.
Okay.
And you jump to the Rush world. And obviously the first thing you start doing is you meet people and start doing side quests and stuff. But where this game gets different from Mass Effect is when you get into combat, instead of actually fighting like Mass Effect, the game comes with a USB microphone.
Wait, is this like Seaman in space?
You have to sing 80s hits via like Rock Band singing to beat your enemies.
Go on!
This is a space rock opera. And you will have likes of Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Metallica, Black Sabbath, some Guns N' Roses, Quiet Riot.
Yes.
And, you know, singing is fun, but there's a hook I thought up. Your friends have Rock Band instruments just laying around their house. It's probably like in a fish tank, in the bathroom.
It's at the thrift store.
You can play co-op with this game, and when you get into a fight, everyone has their own instrument, and you all rock together while fighting for the freedom of the known universe.
So, wait, did you just describe Captain EO?
Yes.
Can I jump in with one question that I think is pretty critical?
Yes.
The depiction on screen of this, is it going to look like, you know, like blasters and whatever, or is it actually going to be like your crew with instruments, like defeating aliens with the power of rock?
They are going to have instruments, like, you know, that pop out in like holographic ways, and you are defeating people with the power of rock.
So, like, a very grounded gem.
Yes.
Yeah, or like that character in Chrono Cross that I loved so much.
Ooh, from the Magical Dreamers.
Nikki.
Yeah.
Yes, Nikki. So
you are rocking really hard, and you keep defeating them, and the enemies can't figure out why. But finally, they figure it out, and this is the Act 3 surprise, so you guys need to hold on. It is discovered you were engineered from the DNA of Freddie Mercury.
Oh. That was just lying around everywhere.
well, I mean, in the 70s it probably was.
Science had to have saved his DNA, I mean, for the good of all mankind. And, so you're now Freddie Mercury, you're, you know, pretty much Freddie Mercury, and at that point, people just start calling you Freddie Mercury. Your character's like, that's not my name, because you name your character earlier, but they're like, you've got his DNA, you're him, and you grow his mustache suddenly. I don't know why, it's awesome. But anyway, you meet the leader of the Rush.
Oh, God.
And it is General Geddy Lee.
Oh my god.
For fuck's sake.
You didn't see it coming. That is your fault.
I almost made a joke about this when we were like, whoa, is it Rush Limbaugh? Do they make you like play San Francisco Rush? Like, that was going to be my next go-to.
You were so close and you missed it. So anyway, the final battle is a mixture of Bohemian Rhapsody and Tom Sawyer being played against each other in this epic battle. And then at the end, I want to kind of make it look like maybe they escaped the Rush's universe as it's collapsing in on itself because Bohemian Rhapsody cannot be beat. And, you know, that leaves a door for the sequel, maybe. But then if no one buys it because it uses Rock Band instruments, and I understand that, then you can write your own ending. So that is my space rock opera. There's probably no questions because that was not as good as Brad's.
No, I mean, you have to understand, I love Space Channel 5 and Mass Effect, so...
And I love Nikki from Chrono Cross, so
Yes.
this would almost seem like it would be a great use for a Guardians of the Galaxy license, with the 80s music and the spacefaring. I guess that's not really a question.
No, it's not. Zero questions there.
So you totally customize your crew? Like you're the only one that has kind of a narrative connection?
Yeah. They're just there to make you feel like you created your crew, and then they're like, these are my people.
Do you get to pick their outfits?
Yes, of course. Dressing up people in video games is awesome.
Okay, so 2 things here. 1, DLC opportunity. 2, 16-year-old boys are going to love this game.
That's true, except there's not going to be, like, an ability to make super busty ladies.
What? Do you hate making money?
Unless you buy the anime DLC.
Ah, the waifu pack.
Yes.
Oh man, that is an awesome idea to like put all that out there, but like the really like horny teen options are all like DLC.
Our creeper pack comes with everything you need.
If you want a bust size above a 32, download this.
The DOA pack.
Well, yeah, you're gonna download the Dead or Alive pack and be like, no, it's gonna be like busty girls in swimsuits, and then it's just like "You Spin Me Right Round" is one of the songs you can play, and you're like, no.
But like the more important thing is where Rock Band didn't succeed because it was just playing music. There will be
Right, this has a narrative.
Yeah, there'll be a story to play, and you can plug in new songs to rock harder.
Did you like that would be my practical question here. Because you mentioned like side quests and such, and like what makes Mass Effect and RPGs like that successful is there's so much content and so many people you can meet and so many things you can do. Whereas if every time you help someone you need to sing a song, that's a limited amount of content, given how much songs cost.
Yeah.
That's true. Maybe there's like a freestyle option.
Because I know I played Mario DDR, and that like did have a fairly limited story because there were only so many songs you could dance to in it.
Also, I thought of there's a problem in my story is when you destroy the universe with Bohemian Rhapsody, everyone you helped is gonna die because Russia's galaxy is collapsing in on itself. And I kind of feel bad for making all that side quest content and then killing all those people.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they come with you. Maybe like when you help them, they're like, "We'll come aboard your ship."
And then you can genetically alter them too.
You might have some
Yeah.
issues with like getting the rights to use Freddie Mercury's name and likeness, and then like use the songs that he wrote to destroy the universe.
I think Freddie Mercury would be totally down with his song being so awesome it implodes a universe. I would assume. It might be harder to get Rush on board with this.
Yeah, they might not want to be the bad guys.
But you know, Backstreet, I hear it's back again.
There you go.
But then the Rush wouldn't make any sense.
You could get Jeffrey Rush.
So at the
Oh yeah, instead of pop and rock songs, it could just be all sea shanties.
Bohemian Rhapsody versus a sea shanty.
Yes. No, everything is sea shanties.
No.
Good songs, bad songs.
Yeah, so that's my idea. It's not as good as Brad's, and I feel shame.
I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of like a narratively focused rock band.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think when you consider kind of the barriers to entry of like people already needing the instruments, and then the cost of licensing songs, that can make it difficult. And like Mark was kind of alluding to, part of what makes Mass Effect so awesome is that there's a huge backstory and universe and all that you can learn about. It's kind of why it's hard to go back and like play Mass Effect through again now, is it's like, oh, I already know this guy's background. I already know all about, the jellyfish race and all that. And it kind of gets boring, to play Mass Effect again, because you've already learned about this deep universe. But yeah, you would have to build all that, I think, to make the game.
You just find public domain music that you're playing.
Yeah, just all like ragtime Scott Joplin, the entertainer.
Yeah, Jimmy Crackhorn and I Don't Care.
What if you have to build up to being awesome at rock? So you start with like children's nursery rhymes for side quests, and then you get into some of like the weird recorded in a tin can stuff, and then when you discover you're Freddie Mercury, that's when you can actually start rocking hard. And that's after all the side quests are done. So that's more of a, you don't really have much of a track to jump off at that point. That's just the story mode taking over and getting rid of all the, my dog got lost, can you go find him? It's like, sure, universe is in the bounds.
And rock his pants off!
Enter Sandman to a dog's face. It just explodes out an airlock. You're like, couldn't find your dog, sorry. So, alright, so that was my pitch.
I'm sad. These were actually fairly marketable ideas. I'd say that second one was only about 2 bubsies.
Oh. Awesome. Wow.
Out of 10. I was hoping for something really insane, like what if there was Castlevania without the monsters? You're just walking around, lighting candles, and eating ham. In a big house.
Like, what happens between Castlevanias? Because the castle only comes back every so often. So is it just the Belmonts just hanging out? Like, we probably should have another kid in case Dracula comes back?
It's, like a father, like Daddy Belmont has to teach his son, like, here's vampire hunting skills that you're never gonna need, but you need to pass on to your child.
See, you're focusing on the Belmont angle. I'm focusing on the prime real estate where Castle Dracula was. Like, I'm just imagining all the little shops that open up there and, like, all the restaurants and such people try running. And then, all of a sudden, every so many years, boom, castle on top of it.
So here's the problem. We've discussed this in length. There's a mine underneath that castle. For some reason, they've dug out that cliffside, so it's no longer prime real estate, and we have no idea how a castle sits on top of that cliff that's been hollowed out.
Okay, but think about all the miners that are out of work as soon as that castle, like, shows up over their workplace. And it's full of monsters. They're like, well, I was going to dig some coal, but I don't want to get eaten by mermen.
This sounds like a Telltale game.
Real estate Dracula.
Now we're getting into the really good pitches. Real estate. Oh my god, I want to play Real Estate Dracula.
But I mean, have you read the original Dracula novel?
Oh, a long time ago.
Yeah, like, real estate scam was part of his plan. It's like, I'm buying up all the land in London. They're like, this dirty foreigner will have to ruin his scheme. He sucks blood and clots the market.
What is a human? Just a miserable pile of a potential buyer.
Okay, so Real Estate Dracula, I'm giving 0 bubsies to. This is the best idea I've heard yet.
Take my loan, monster. Then what's her name appears? Richard, no, it's a short sale.
This is my Hall of Associates. Death, drop the paperwork.
Death is just a sad employee. Alucard's like, Dad, can I borrow the car? He's like, I'm working, son. Dad, gosh.
Go put out the open house signs.
This is my son Alucard. He's working for me for the summer.
Oh. Wait, are these regular candles? Put out the cinnamon-scented ones. It'll make them feel more like home.
I brought the blood-scented ones. Alucard.
He's just gonna whip them all anyway.
Yeah. There's not a single ham in these walls. We want people to feel at home.
What's my wall chicken per hour in this place? Light the candle, and he like just literally walks in. He's like, "Oh no, a candle!"
I'll pay for that later.
Oh, yeah. So the third game wins. unfortunately,
All this effort we put into our pitches, and Real Estate Dracula ends up winning.
our guest who does this for a living just walks in and is like, "Let me show you how it's done, boys."
It's like the scene at the end of Elf where Peter Dinklage comes in to write the children's book, and he's just like, this. It's like, this is why I'm the pro.
Your guys' ideas were Bubsy, but let me give you a 0 Bubsy. All right, so, I mean, Mark, you won. Brad, you got second place. And I got...
Well, no, that's not for you to decide. We brought Mark on this show to tell me my idea was better than yours.
You got half a Bubsy. I got 2 Bubsies. He got 0 Bubsies. Literally, that is like a scoreboard we can look at.
But yeah, they were all gold-plated in some way.
It's a very nice PR way of saying my idea is the best. So, all right, so we are going to turn it over to you, to Mark, to decide which one of the hosts of this said podcast won.
Well, let's see. I'd say the Wrestling Simulator is a genuinely heartfelt, well-thought-out pitch that I think could genuinely find a home in the market. I think people would really like that. That said, Freddie Mercury in space sounds amazing, and I want to melt that dog right out the airlock.
Well, Brad, is it a tie?
There are no losers here.
I guess we are millennials after all.
Participation trophies for everyone.
First time in the show's history that we can say that.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us. If you want to follow us, that's all over in the show notes. Please tell a friend how great this episode was. Do not give this episode to anyone at EA because they will steal our gold ideas, even though mine's just Mass Effect with Freddie Mercury, and that's kind of theirs already.
But do get Konami to make games again.
Specifically, Real Estate Dracula. This needs the Castlevania license to really work.
Yes. Please tweet Konami with hashtag Castlevania Real Estate. Mark, thank you for coming on and lending your expertise in creating Dracula Real Estate.
A pleasure.
I am Donald. That was Brad. And that was Mark. And we will see you next time.
Condominium of blood.
It's down the street from the Rondo.
The HOAs are a pain in the neck.
They will bleed you dry.